ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयत्। नश्यपायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवति उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपाकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्नानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टां स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरू श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादां सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामी नित्यनामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी भाषतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमपदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनामने गौतुसे नमः। वंशकल्पातरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. We welcome everyone for today's morning Bhagavatam class. As part of our Bhagavad Life program, we are reading from 4th canto, 28th chapter, titled as Puranjana becomes a woman in next life. It's a very, very beautiful section and very important. This whole chapter is amazing, particularly purports. One very, very important concepts Prabhupada explains in purport after purport. So the story is such, एक था राजा, एक थी रानी, दोनों मर गए, खत्म कहानी। So यहाँ पे पुरंजन की कहानी खत्म होती है। Puranjana has died, and then his wife, no, Puranjana has died, yeah. Not the Puranjana, sorry, that he died long ago. That was in the previous chapter. I was just thinking, he was killed long ago. Puranjana took birth as a lady, and her husband have died away. That is the story now going on. And now she's crying, seeing the husband, who literally has gone back to Godhead, was very advanced, Maladhwaj, if I'm correct with the name. And now at this point of time, there is nobody. And to that lady, to console that lady, her very old friend, ancient friend, क्या कहते हैं ना वो, कौन से यार होते हैं, Langotia Yar. Something like Langotia Yar came back to her. And we're going to read from text number 51 for that reason. 4.28.51. 51. Tatra Bhuvatarha Kashe Saka Brahmana Atmava Santavyan Valguna Samna तामाहारुततिं प्रभु तत्र पूर्वतरः कश्चित् सखा ब्राह्मण आत्मवान् सन्तव्यन्वल्गुना साम्ना तामाहारुततिं प्रभु तत्र पूर्वतरः कश्चित् सखा ब्राह्मण आत्मवान् सान्तव्यन्वल्गुना साम्ना तामाहारुदतं प्रभु. It's a very simple translation. Tamaharudati means Rona, because the lady was crying. Sakha, his friend, who was a Brahmana. Uh, Atmavan means a learned person. A Brahmana friend. Santavyan came there to give what? Santavana. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Next few verses are very important verses, and the purports are more and more important, discussing about our relationship with Paramatma. My dear king, one Brahmana, who was an old friend of King Purañjana, came to that place and began to pacify the queen with sweet words. Papa talks about who is his friend. Papat, the appearance of an old friend in the form of a Brahmana is very significant. In his Paramatma feature, Krishna is the old friend of everyone. According to Vedic injunction, Krishna is sitting with the living entity side by side. So I have a question to all of you so that your attention span increases. So a Brahmana appeared who was nothing but a Paramatma. That is an indication. So question can be asked, if Paramatma can appear to a living entity, why not Lord Shri Krishna can come directly? You know, Paramatma came in the form of a Brahmana. Why not Lord can come directly? Prabhupada will answer that. So think about it. Why to have a Paramatma feature? Let better Lord come. So Prabhupada is talking about in the purpose, sitting with the living entity as witness, the Lord gives him all chances to enjoy himself materially. But whenever there is an opportunity, the Lord gives good counsel and advises the living entity to abandon trying to become happy through material adjustment, and instead turn his face towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrender unto him. What does it mean by Paramatma giving a good counsel to a living entity? Well, Paramatma is always there with us, always trying to give a good counsel, but we cannot hear him. So what does it refers to good counsel? It refers to what we can perceive. Others coming and giving us some. For example, Srila Prabhupada is struggling in Vrindavan all by himself, printing his Back to Godhead magazines in the form of articles on a loose papers and distributing it. So librarian says, Swamiji, why don't you print a book? Those kind of things came from all kinds of different, people from all walks of life, giving a good piece of advice. That is what. And Prabhupada said, I could see my spiritual master is trying to instruct me through that person. So that's the point here. So in other words, we may be getting good counsel, but we could be deaf like Duryodhana. What was an issue with Duryodhana? So much good counsel he had. It's not that he didn't have good association. He had such a good association. But why he was what he was? Why couldn't he hear to the good counsel? He had ears. He was able to hear the sound of Shakuni. Why couldn't he hear to the good counsel? Or who could hear to the good counsel? Then you're able to understand that. And you can see that around in our Vaishnava community also. These are such a subtle points. You can look at a person, you understand where the person is situated. So who cannot hear to good counsel? So what was and the reason I quoted the other example, so you all can capture it very easily. The one who is self-absorbed, he cannot hear to the good counsel. He becomes deaf to the good counsel. Only thing he can hear is somebody say something which is an alignment with his plans and wishes. Otherwise, everything will bounce off. An example is Duryodhan. To understand more, study the character of Duryodhan from Mahabharata, you'll get it. So similarly, people who become self-absorbed about them, I is all about I, they cannot hear. It doesn't matter you're chanting 16 rounds for 16 years or you're not chanting even a single round. Doesn't make a difference. It's a state of consciousness. All right. And therefore, in the last Sunday program, when I was having a program for Sanatan Vrinda, I was making a point, very important for devotees. When we talk about Guhya Makyati Prachati, what is that? Dadati Pratigranati, Guhya Makyati Prachati, Pumkate Bhojate Chaiva, Shadviti Pratilakshanam. So whom do we reveal our mind? To whom do we share? For that, prior to that, there has to be some relationship. And how does that relationship develops? When we find, these are my people. And what does it mean, these are my people? We can have a sentimental idea about it. But what does it mean, these are my people? If they're your people, just like you pray every morning for you and for yourself and for your family members, the moment you identify these are my people, you naturally pray for them. And that's where the relationship becomes thick. Just like in family, we may have a little bit gala shikwa, right? Something like that we say in Hindi. Gila shikwa. We may have some if and but in relationship, but that doesn't become so important and so serious about it. Because we are there for each other. But that's just a point about. Um, Somehow the mental nature is tricking us a lot with this idea. People become self-absorbed. They just can't think of anyone. So that's the reason why we cannot hear. Next paragraph. The Supreme Personality of God, you have enough space here. Who in? Paramatma appeared before the queen as a Brahmana. Prabhupada is raising question, but why? Why didn't he appear in his original form as Sri Krishna? The reason is, Vishnu Chakitakur says, unless one is very highly elevated and loving, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot see him as he is. What is the reference from Bhagavad Gita? Krishna reveals this. 11th chapter. What does Krishna say in the 11th chapter? Somebody trying to say something online? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's okay. But the main point is 11th chapter Bhagavad Gita, where Lord showed Virat Rupa form, then Chaturbhuj form, and then finally Krishna form. And then Krishna says, this is the most rarest of all. This cannot be seen. Rarest of all means the most precious. And then accordingly, your qualification also increases. That's the idea. So that's the thing. Nonetheless, if one sticks to the principles enunciated by the spiritual master, some other, if he's in the association of the Supreme Lord, yeah. Since the Lord is in the heart, he can advise a sincere disciple from within. Next line, next purport. In paragraph, sorry. In conclusion, if a disciple is very serious to execute the mission of the spiritual master, he immediately associates with the Lord by Vani or Vapuhu. This is the only secret of success in seeing the Lord instead of being eager to see the Lord in some bush of Vrindavan, while at the same time engaging in sense gratification. If one instead sticks to the principle of following the words of the spiritual master, he will see the Supreme Lord without difficulty. The process is very easy, but because of complicated mind, it becomes extremely complicated. In Mahabharata, there's a beautiful verse, Tarko Pratishta Shrutaya Vibhinna Nasa Rishi Yasya Matam Nabhinnam Dharmasya Tattvam Nihitam Guhayam Mahajano Yena Gatha Sapanta. We'll understand this when I'm saying more when we go to 11th canto, particularly the part of Uddhav Gita, extremely complicated, certain sections there. So, what this verse says, Tarako Pratishtha Shutaya Vibhinna Nasa Rishi Yasyamatam Nabhinnam. You're not counted as a rishi unless you have your own opinion, unless you can establish your own point of view. Therefore, it is said to bring Brahmanas together is very difficult because they're intellectual, they're independently thoughtful. Then for them to come together and work together is extremely challenging that way. So this verse says, so dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhyam. The tattva, the essence, just to give you an idea how complex it gets. We know about from Bhagavad Gita a little bit about karma, jnana, yoga, ashtang like this. Then there is Karma Yoga, then is Jnana Yoga. Then there is Karma Yoga, then there is कहते हैं Sakam Karma Yoga, then there is Nishkam Karma Yoga. When you add the flavor of Bhakti, then it becomes Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Ashtanga Mishra Bhakti, and then there is Bhakti according to mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. It just becomes super complicated. And at the end of the day, when you're going through all this thing, your mind will yell, मुझे सिर्फ एक बात बोलो क्या करना है. And the point is, Prabhupada is saying from the day one, same point again and again. Just follow the instructions. Problem is when we don't want to follow and we want to invent and create. And when we want to do this, then we create challenge. That's what Prabhupada is saying here. This is the only secret of seeing in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What to do? In conclusion, if a disciple is very serious to execute the mission of the spiritual master, he immediately associates with the Lord. And a beautiful prayer by Srila Bilawangal Thakur. Bhakti svai sthiratra bhagavan yadi syad daivena nha phalati divya kishora murti mukti swayam muklitanjali sevate sman dharmartha kamagataya samaya pratikshaha. If I am engaged in devotional service unto you, my dear Lord, then very easily can I perceive your presence everywhere. And as far as liberation is concerned, I think the liberation stands at my door with folded hands, waiting to serve me. And all material conveniences of dharma, artha, and kama stand with her. So, what is the thing? Engage. Engage in devotional service. When you hear the word engage, what is the first thing comes in your mind? Engage means how?
Body, mind, senses.
So, first thing is engage your senses. Engage your senses. Everyone have to ask, how are they engaging their senses in the service of the Lord? And Prabhupada defines this or talks about it, dovetailing your propensities in the service of the Lord. Engage. How are we engaging? इतना लंबा चौड़ा 80 kg का शरीर दे रखा है, खा पी के जो मोटा कर रहे हैं उसको, गोलगप्पा, उसको सेवा में लगाने नहीं लगा रहे हैं. And when it comes to that physical service, then we have excuses, then purification doesn't happen. Text number 52. All right, now we'll go with the translation. The Brahmana inquired as follows: Who are you? Whose wife or daughter are you? Who is the man lying here? It appears you're lamenting for this dead body. Don't you recognize me? I am your eternal friend. You may remember that many times in the past you have consulted me. So when does the living entity chooses to consult with the Lord? Yeah. So troubles are also benedictions. Troubles are created in the life, you can say, of somebody who has been favored by the Lord. Troubles are created so he can turn his face towards the Lord. First few lines of the word. When a person's relative dies, renunciation is automatically visible. Consultation with the super soul seated within everyone's heart is possible only when one is completely free from the contamination of material attachment. So, our ability to have a consultation with Paramatma can only happen at very advanced stages. Then, what is an option? That Paramatma appears as Chaitya Guru, the living Guru. Approach that person and take guidance. That's in the next paragraph. The Paramatma is always a Chaitya Guru, the spiritual master within. He comes before one externally as an instructor and initiator, spiritual master. Right now, there's a very famous message is floating around among so many viral things online. Is about Sanju Samson, if I'm correct with the name of Indian cricketer. He got match of the tournament. Sorry, man of the tournament award. I believe like that in the recent World Cup, and I have not heard it. I just read about it, and when he was giving the man of the tournament award, he thanked one person. Because of him, he was able to perform well. And he said a couple of months ago, when I was not doing so well in my profession or whatnot, I don't know if not doing well or not, I don't remember clearly, but thing was, he approached Sachin Tendulkar, the god of cricket, representation of Paramatma in case of Sanju Samson, for that profession. I mean, there's no point Sanju Samson approaching a brahmachari. How do I play my cricket well? Every field has to have. So he approached Sachin Tendulkar and he was giving credit because he made himself available to me and he gave me his guidance, because of which I was able to perform well. So, two things that I was reflecting when I was reading. I said, one, again, taking guidance means humility. Now that Sanju, I don't know how old, शक्ल से तो लगता है 30-35 साल का होगा वो. Anyone knows how old is he? 31, 31, which means at least for the last 15 years he must be playing cricket. you know, and he must have had some success somewhere, and a little success gives us a pride. I know better. You become a competitor. So to have that humility to take guidance, that is one thing. And second thing, after taking guidance on an international stage, on a world stage, where the whole world gonna watch and listen to you, and then give the credit, where actually you have the opportunity to take whole credit, मैंने करा है, and then give credit, actually shows his upbringing. There is a humility. You can see the chain of humility there. All right, Prabhupada is speaking about that. Spiritual master is not different from the super soul sitting within the heart. An uncontaminated soul living can get a chance to meet with Paramatma face to face. All right. And super soul is there to help the living entity from the beginning of the time. Text number 53. Very interesting. Let's take a look at Sanskrit verse. Api smarasi chatmanam अविज्ञाता सखम सखे हित्वा मां पदम अन्विच्छन् भौम भोगारतो गतः. Api smarasi. Smarasi means remember. Api means although. Do you remember me? Chatmana. Cha Atmana. I am the super soul. Do you remember me? Who am I? Avignata, being forgetful. Sakham Sakhe. I am your friend, Sakham. Sakha and Sakhe, O friend. The Brahman is speaking, O Sakhe, I am your Avignata Sakham, Sakha. I am your unknown friend or forgetful friend who you have forgotten. Hitva, giving up, Hitva Mam, giving up my association. Padam, Anvichan. Padam means also destination. You desired, Anvichan means to desire. What did you desire? Bhauma Bhoga. Bhoma refers to this world. Bhoga means gratification. Giving up my association you desired for material gratification. Bhoma Bhoga Rato Gataha. Rata, Rati, attached. Gata means Gati. And therefore you got this Gati. Somebody like to read the translation? This is about why Jiva falls down.
Translation. The Brahmana continued, My dear friend, even though you cannot immediately recognize me, can't you remember that in the past you had a very intimate friend? Unfortunately, you gave up my company and accepted a position as enjoyer of this material world.
Purport.
Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:27, Ichchadvesha samuthena dvanda mohena bharata sarvabhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. O Scion of Bharat, Arjun, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, overcome by the dualities of desire and hate.
And the very important line. This is an explanation of how the living entity falls down in this world. Please read from next. The spiritual
In
world.
the spiritual world, there is no duality nor is there hate. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands himself into many.
So now next few lines talks about his different expansions. Swamsha, Vibhinamsha, etc. Swamsha is Vishnu avatar, Vibhinamsha is separated. So what is Vibhinamsha? The Vibhinamsha expansion, the marginal potential of the Lord are the living entities. You found it? When the living entities, please read.
Okay. These expanded living entities.
No, 3 lines below from that. When the living entities.
When the living entities desire to enjoy themselves, they develop a consciousness of duality and come to hate the service of the Lord. In this way, the living entities fall into the material world.
So, desire. Desire is a concomitant factor of our existence. Desire cannot be taken away. So, as long as we are spiritual beings, desire is always going to be there. The question is, what are we desiring? And what needs to be changed through the practice of Bhakti Yoga is the quality of our desires. And there is something, maybe you can mark it as whenever you are, whenever is your birthday, On that day of birthday, one thing that you want to do is write a letter to the Lord. And then in that letter, express how do you feel the quality of your desires have evolved. What is the evolution is meant to be is of the evolution of our desires from asatuma satgamaya tamasuma jyotirgamaya, from material to apara to para, like that. That's the point here. So Krishna Bhairmukha Hayya Bhogavancha Kare Nikatastha Maya Tare Japiya Dhare. Please read.
The natural position of the living entity is to serve the Lord in a transcendental loving attitude. When the living entity wants to become Krishna himself or imitate Krishna, he falls down into the material world. Since Krishna is the Supreme Father, his affection for the living entity is eternal. When the living entity falls down into the material world, the Supreme Lord, through his Swamsha expansion, Paramatma, keeps company with the living entity. In this way, the living entity may someday return home back to Godhead.
So in the next paragraph, Prabhupada is talking how after coming here, he takes multiple forms. So point is, unless the living entity is uncontaminated by material desires, he cannot surrender to the Supreme Lord. Same subject matter is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Unless a living entity gives up his desire for Bhukti Mukti Siddhikami, until that one of time, he really cannot take shelter of the Lord. Shelter of the Lord means shelter of the devotees. You will, and what does shelter of the devotees means? You will not find him stable and committed for anyone's service. This person will always keep on moving, keep on changing his position. First, second, he would not have any committed service. You know, you just can't do it because commitment means you have to be responsible. Willingness to sacrifice, willingness to compromise your comfort and convenience. You see, then these fellows will do anything and everything, but will not take to any committed service. What service can you give me? Okay, at the end of the day, I'll just go and maybe, wind up. Something where, even if I don't turn up, somebody anyways will do it. So this is something. So the idea of surrender to Lord, we're so much driven by sentiments and we keep on justifying our sentiments. So surrender to Lord means surrender to devotees. What does surrender to devotees means? You have to ask, each one of you have to ask for yourself, do I have any committed service for which I am responsible? I am willing to take responsibility for it. And willing to take responsibility means I'm willing to become accountable for it. Willing to become accountable for it means if you don't do well, then you're going to get corrections for it. Am I willing to receive correction to improve? नो 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 प्रभु बस हम मस्त मोला जीवन जिएंगे सोना माला करेंगे घूमेंगे फिरेंगे नाचेंगे बस आप मुझे सेवा बोल दो हम सेवा कर लेंगे प्रसाद हम serving this and that that's not a sign of humility actually. That's this idea is that I just want to live my life. I don't want anyone to interfere. Anyways, I'm going to go and attend the program. If half an hour I stand on the table and serve prasadam, what's the big deal? At least I'll maintain my social rapport. So that's the idea. So before you can think about surrendering to the Lord, you ask yourself, how are you surrendering to devotees? What is the one thing that you're following and you're accountable to them for that? Otherwise, it's all mere theory. We keep on deceiving ourselves. All right, text number 54. Now, beautifully, Nadman is describing. Translation. Let's read translation. My dear gentle friend, both you and I are exactly like two swans. We live together in the same heart, which is just like the Manasar lake. Although we have been living together for many thousands of years, we are still far away from our original home. We are far away from our original home. Papa, read the first few lines.
The original home of the living entity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, both the Lord and the living entities live together very peacefully. Since the living entity remain engaged in the service of the Lord, they both share a blissful life in the spiritual world. However, when the living entity wants to enjoy himself, he falls down into the material world. Even while he is in the position, the Lord remains with him as the super soul, his intimate friend. Because of his forgetfulness, the living entity does not know that Supreme Lord is accompanying him
Because
as
God
the
loves us, there is no concept of duality for him, like and dislike. He loves us means that is eternal. There's no change. But because we have fallen in the world of duality, so we have forgotten our relationship for him. So, but the Lord accompanies us as Paramatma. So two swans, we're together, but somehow you've forgotten. It's just like one swan getting distracted, moving somewhere else. So what happens next when the living entity falls down, comes to this material world? Then samsara chakra etasmin jantur ajnana mohitaha भ्राम्यम सुखम च दुःखम च punkate sarvatra sarvada. Chittaketu Maharaj telling to Mother Parvati in the sixth canto in the last chapters. So that's what is happening. He is wandering. Translation, please. 55th verse.
My dear friend, you are now my very same friend. Since you left me, you have become more and more materialistic and not seeing me. You have been traveling in different forms throughout this material world, which was created by same woman.
Some woman,
Some woman.
not same woman.
Sorry.
So what is it, which was created by some woman? What is it referring to? Which woman? Created by some woman. This is created by whom?
Maya.
Mahavishnu glances at what? Prakriti, and then that Prakriti gets impregnated. So this material world is manifestation of whom? Coming from the womb of whom? Maya Devi, Prakriti. So that he is referring. By some woman, this material world has been created, and therefore you have fallen into this place. First few lines of the puppet.
When the living entity falls down, he goes into the material world, which was created by the external energy of the Lord. This external energy is described herein as some woman or Prakriti. This material world is composed of metal elements, ingredients supplied by the Mahatattva, the total material energy. The material world created by this external energy becomes the so called home of the conditioned soul. Within this material world, the conditioned soul accepts different apartments or different bodily forms and then travels about. Sometimes it travels in the higher planetary systems and sometimes in the lower systems. Sometimes
So
it.
he's wandering, that's the point. All right. Now, what happens when he's wandering? So he gets a material body. Text number 56. In that city, the material body, there are 5 gardens, 9 gates, 1 protector, 3 apartments, 6 families, 5 stores, 5 material elements, and 1 woman who is lord of the house. So now we will explain this analogy. Don't worry, huh? Text number 57. Translation, please.
My dear friend, the 5 gardens are the 5 objects of sense enjoyment, and the protector is the life air, which passes through the 9 gates. The 3 apartments are the chief ingredients fire, water, and earth. The 6 families are the aggregate total of the mind and 5 senses.
5 senses here refers to knowledge acquiring senses. Manashastrani Indyani Prakritistani Karshati. All right. So Prabhupada is explaining that text number 58. Translation.
The 5 stores are the 5 sensory organs.
Working senses. Okay.
Yeah. They transact their business through the combined forces of the 5 elements, which are eternal. Behind all this activity is the soul. The soul is a person and an enjoyer in reality. However, because he is now hidden within the city of the body, he is devoid of knowledge.
Puppet. Very nice.
Puppet. The living entity enters the material creation with the aid of the 5 elements earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and thus his body is formed. Although the living entity is working from within, he is nonetheless unknown. The living entity enters the material creation, but because he is bewildered by the material energy, he appears to be hidden. The bodily conception of life is prominent because of ignorance. Nava
That's
Buddhyate.
okay. Continue.
Intelligence is described in the feminine gender, but owing to her prominence in
So who was
all
the intelligence
activities,
before? In the case of Purañjana? His wife. Purañjana was a living entity. I know he finding that lady wandering in the forest refers to the wife. Intelligence. Continue.
she is described in this verse as the Adhisha, the controller. The living entity lives by means of fire, water, and food grains. It is through the combination of these three that the body is maintained. Consequently, the body is called Prakriti, material creation. All the elements gradually combine to the form flesh, bone, blood, and so on. All these appears are various apartments. In it is said that the Vedas that the digest foods are ultimately divided into three. The solid proportion becomes stool.
Portion. The solid portion becomes stool. Three
The,
things. The semi-liquid portion turns into flesh, and the liquid portion turns yellow and is again divided into three. One of those liquid portion is called urine. Similarly, the fiery portion is divided into three, and one is called bone. Out of the five elements, fire, water, and food rains are very important. These three are mentioned in the previous verses. Sky, ether are not mentioned on it. Those are details of it. Somebody is interested in the science, they can read this. Text number 59 translation, please.
My
Now
dear,
the living entity have entered into the body. What's going to happen is going to become entangled. Go ahead.
my dear friend, when you enter such a body along with the woman of material desires, you become overly absorbed in sense enjoyment. Because of this, you have forgotten your spiritual life. Due to your material conceptions, you are placed in various miserable
So
conditions.
how does a person gets different kinds of bodies? So the contaminated, the more the the more the intelligence is contaminated, accordingly the the lower degrees of forms one get it. Antakale Jamameva, that's the whole idea here. Proper rights. Depending on intelligence. Text number 60. And so what happens? You enter into the body, you're becoming entangled, and now you create false identities. Text number 60.
Actually, you are not the daughter of Vidarbha, nor is this man,
Malaya Dvaja,
Malaya Dvaja,
your husband.
your well wishing husband, nor were you the actual husband of Purañjana. You were simply captivated in this body of nine gates.
So these all are false identities. You're identifying with your mother and father, that's not your identity. You're identifying with your husband or wife, that's not your identity. You do not belong any of it. These are the identity related to the body, but you're not the body or the city of nine gates. Prabhupada Nadmani is saying that. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, fifth or sixth line, false bodies create various associations in the name of family, community, society, nationality. Actually, every living entity is part and parcel of the all, but the living entities are overly grossed in the material body. Prabhupada gives an analogy below. The Supreme Lord gives his instruction because the eternal friend of the living entities. Instructions are important because with them the living entity can obtain liberation from bodily engagement. As water passes down a river, many straws and grasses are carried from the shore. These straws and grasses come together in the river current. But when the waves toss this way and that, they are separated and carried somewhere else. Similarly, the innumerable living entities within this material are being carried by the waves of material nature. Sometimes the waves bring them together and they form friendship and relate to one another on a bodily basis of family, community, or nationality. Eventually, they are thrown out of the association of the waves of material nature. This process has been going on since the creation of material nature. This is what samsara chakra etasmin, like this. And here, a quote from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's song, Mriche Maya Ravashe Yachabhishe Khacha Habudubu Bhai Jiva Krishna Das E Vishwas Karle Tara Dukha Nahi. Like this, like this. All right, that's the idea. So, a very beautiful analogy, a very solid analogy. So, our life in this world is compared to straws, which are floating through the waves of the river, which ultimately going to go and end up in the ocean. And this river is compared to the material nature. So sometimes the straws are brought together and they stay together for a while, and then the waves again toss them somewhere else and they get separated. So what Prabhupada is quoting here is what Prabhupada was thinking at the time of, renouncing. What is family? So there are two things, let me ask this thing. What is easier? Or in other words, what is difficult? Prabhupada had a great difficulty, at least, not in that way, but he had a challenge to give up his family. He was worried. What will happen to me? What will happen to them? And what not? So that is one situation. So what I'm trying to ask is, so even for Prabhupada, who had been pure devotee from the childhood, literally from the beginning, even for him to give up his family life, to give up his family members, and he's the one who's writing here, was difficult. So, what is easy? To make new relationships and then give up, or to give up before we make those new relationships? Because at the end of the day, we have to anyways give it up. So we have to be careful of cultivating new tastes, new desires, and as well as also new relationships. It ain't going to be easy, because the nature of this world is you get attached to it. Even for Prabhupada, it was a challenge, to move on, the spiritual master, to follow the spiritual master instruction in that way. Text number 61. Next.
Sometimes, sometimes you think yourself a man, sometimes a chaste woman, and sometimes a neutral eunuch. Eunuch. This is all because of the body, which is created by the illusionary energy. This illusionary energy is my potency, and actually, both of us, you and I, are.
So you and I are same. There's no difference. So what is the difference here? What is the same? Oneness is in quality we are same. That is what Prabhupada is explaining here. Text number 62. Go ahead. Aham bhavan na chanyasvam tvamevaham vichakshvabho nano pashyanti kavyash chidram jatu managapi.
My dear friend, I, the super soul, and you, the individual soul, are not different in quality. For we are both spiritual. In fact, my dear friend, you are qualitatively not different from me in your constitutional opposition. Just try to consider this subject. Those who are actually advanced scholars who are in knowledge do not find any qualitative difference between you and me.
We are same. We are spiritual. We are not material. Why are you giving it to material identities? Text number 63.
As a person sees the reflection of his body in a mirror to be one with himself and not different, whereas the others actually see two bodies. So, in our material condition, in which the living being is affected and yet not affected, there is a difference between God and the living entity.
So this is another very complicated topic. Is God and I same? And if it is different, how much different? What percentage of difference? So Prabhupada is quoting Mayapur philosophers, being conditioned by matter, they do not see the difference between the Lord and the living entity. Again, this is the whole purport debunking Mayapur philosophy. You can read it later on. Text number 64.
In this way, both swans live together in the heart. When the one swan is instructed by the other, he is situated in his constitutional position.
So who's the one who's instructing it? Not the Jiva instructing Paramatma. Okay? Not make sure they don't misunderstand. Okay?
This means he regains his original Krishna consciousness, which was lost because of his material attraction.
So being one with the Lord means we are always pure. It's just because our desires getting contaminated, we are in this situation. Prabhupada is the purpose. Hamsa hamsena pratibodhitaha. The individual souls and the Lord are both compared to swans. Hamsa because they're white or uncontaminated. One swan, however, is superior and is instructor of the other. When the inferior swan is separated by the other swan, he is attracted to material enjoyment. This is the cause of his fall down. When he hears instruction of the swan, he understands his position, again revived to his original consciousness. Supreme Lord Krishna comes down to deliver his devotees and kill the demons. He also gives a sublime instruction in the form of Gita, Bhagavad Gita. The individual soul has to understand his position by the grace of the Lord and the spiritual master, because the text of Bhagavad Gita cannot be understood simply by academic qualifications. Text number 65. My dear King Prachari Bhari. Just go ahead.
My dear King Prachinbari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, is celebrated to be known indirectly. Thus, I have described the story of Purañjana to you. Actually, it is an instruction for self realization.
Let's read the puppets.
There are many similar stories in the Puranas for
The
self.
Narad Muni, now the story ends, and Narad Muni is revealing what's happening here. It is an instruction for self realization. I have described the story of Purañjana to you. Yes, puppet.
There are many similar stories in the Puranas for self realization. As stated in the Vedas, Paroksh Priya Ivahi Deva, there are many stories in the Puranas that are intended to interest ordinary men in transcendental subjects. But actually, these refer to real facts. They are not to be considered stories without a transcendental purpose. Some of them refer to real historical facts. One should be interested, however, in the real purport of the story. Indirect instruction is quickly understandable for a common man. Actually, the path of Bhakti Yoga is the path of hearing directly about the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. But those who are not interested in hearing directly about the activities of the Lord or who cannot understand them can very effectively hear such stories and fables as this one narrated by Narad Muni.
That's the point. Those who do not have at least that faith right now, so at least they can hear these stories, so they get the lesson. The following is a glossary of some of the important words in the chapter. So that's okay. These are details into it. Vaidharbi. So now the whole analogy or allegory has been unpacked. Each character has been described. So let's read the Vaidharbi. The woman who was formerly a man but took birth as a woman in the next life, that was Purañjana, because of too much attachment to woman. Dharma means kusha grass. In fruitive activities, a karmakandi ceremony one requires kusha grass. Thus, Vedavi refers to one who takes birth in a family of karmakandi understanding. However, if by karmakandi activities one by chance comes in contact with the devotee, as Vedavi did when she married Maladhvaj, his life becomes successful. He then pursues devotional service of the Lord. The conditioned soul becomes liberated simply by following the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 4th canto, 28th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Puranjana becomes a woman in the next life. And next is chapter number 21. We'll start it next week. That'll be okay. So let me give you a breakup of this next chapter. There are around 85 verses. If you wish, you can write it down. And that will be the last chapter of part 2, 4th canto. So first 25 verses, Narad Muni gives elaboration on this allegory that he explained, which we understood from Prabhupada's purpose. Now they will be unpacked. Verse number 1 to 25th verse. Then 26 to 33rd verse, there's a direct description of material existence. 34 to 41, Narad Muni gives bhakti as the ultimate solution. Perform bhakti. 34 to 41, Narad Muni gives bhakti as a solution. Text number 42 to 55, he instructs Prachani Bharishat or Bharishat to stop ritualistic ceremonies. Text number 56 onwards are questions asked by Bharishat. Particularly 3 verses, 56 to 59. And then from 60th verse, Narad Muni answers those questions. From 60 to 79 verse, around 19-20 verses. 80th verse, Bharishat packs his bag, VIP suitcase, calls for Ola cab, and goes to the forest. Well, probably he might have walked with a handbag, thela, something, not with a VIP suitcase. So 80 to 82 verse is the renunciation of king, and 83 to 85. This is something which everyone should attend. Falashruti, the benedictions for those who heard the story. And even if you didn't hear the story, at least hear the benedictions, so you are inspired to hear the story later on. So that is how this whole episode will end. We'll take it and we'll check it out next week. So I'll pause here. If anyone has any questions or reflections, it could be from today's discussion or previous discussions. And now the story of Purañjana ends here. Purañjana becoming Vaidharbi. That's also concludes here. So important, beautiful discussion about Paramatma. So we talked about Paramatma. We also spoke about how the philosophy is so complicated. Just do the most simple thing. Just follow the instructions, spiritual master. Tesham Satatayutana Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. And Lord is pleased by our sincere efforts. Then He's sitting within His heart as Paramatma will begin to guide us. We don't have to do too much complicated things to understand Krishna consciousness. All right, so I pause here. Thank you for your kind attention. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Hare
Srimad
Krishna Prabhu, Dhanat Pranam.
Jai. So we open the forum for any comments or any questions. We have time, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanat Pranam. Am I audible? Hare Krishna. Okay.
Yes.
Prabhu, thank you very much, Prabhu. Very wonderful series of discussions in this regard. Prabhuji, you asked a question in between the class saying, is it more difficult to, develop new relations and then give them up? Or, is it easier not even make those relations, which we want to give up later on? So I was just thinking of my own life, Prabhu, because until the age of 24, when I woke up, I had to wake up with a bed coffee. I had to have onion sambar every Sunday, like that. So I wanted to give my children, the same. I had the same mindset. So I have never given them onion garlic in their life. I have never given them coffee, tea. Um, you know, but now I'm coming to realize that as I've moved out to various hostels and other places where they interact with a lot of people.
Mother, one second. Not so clear, so what's going on? Can you increase the treble and reduce the bass? She's speaking from headphones, so that should be clear now. Hare Krishna. Mother, you can just speak a little slowly. There was little bass. So, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Prabhu. So I was just asking that I was of the view that if we don't introduce things that are kind of detrimental and need to be given up later, that will be helpful. So I never introduced them to onion garlic, or they've always had ekadashi prasadam and not had tea, coffee, etc. But then when they step out into the world, they were inside Gopal's garden, happy and very nice. But when they step out into this world at large, they even if there is nothing in the hostel, there is no Ekadashi Prasad in the hostel, somebody is not even able to get fruits. They somehow torture themselves by saying that, Mummy, you made me follow Ekadashi for 17 years. So even if I don't have anything, I don't want to break Ekadashi. So, there's also this concept of A2 cow milk. You don't get milk also that's pure in the hostel, etc. So sometimes I find myself thinking that, is it good to not expose them, with the fear that they may also have to give up the great difficulty that I have encountered when I was at 24, and we don't give them all those things, and then even when there is a need, they don't want to step out and they blame us, You've inculcated that in us. And, now we
Mother,
are doing
because
opposite.
the longer you continue this, the more confused I'll become about your query. So if you can just in one
I
or two
don't know,
lines.
Prabhu. I'm confused. So you got my query or not, Prabhu?
No, I didn't got your question. I'm just kind of trying to understand your story.
So, okay, in one
So
line,
if
I'll
you
try
can
to
just
tell you the
take a just deep breath and think what you exactly want to say in one line, then I may be able to comment.
Okay. So, Prabhu, it is difficult to introduce something in our life which is not favorable to Krishna consciousness and give up later. But that's a conscious decision that we take, that I want to give it up for Krishna. Rather than make it very easy for somebody to not expose them to things not detrimental, and they wanting to explore it later on, or they blaming the others that, why was I not exposed to this? Like I had the choice. I
All
regret
right.
that I'm not given the
Yeah.
choice to
All
want
right.
to.
All right. Let me decode your question for you, and let's see if this is what you're
Thank
trying
you,
to
Prabhu.
say.
You always do that.
Yeah. So this is the factual problem in the world today. Raising a child in a Krishna conscious environment, but when the child has to leave that situation or environment or the safety of the home, go in the outside world, and then the child is exposed to all kind of things. So it's difficult for the child also to face that. And I believe that's what the challenge mother is reflecting upon. I don't know what's a concluding line, what she wants to say. But if it's a challenge, yeah, that's definitely a challenge. As a parent, we can think of what exactly we can do or how we can actually help our children. Most importantly, if this is what the direction of the question, I'm not sure it's related with our discussion today, but I just add 1 or 2 points because she was trying to say something. My humble suggestion for this to all the parents, uh, the world have changed, the things have changed. It's now that if the child doesn't become engineer or doctor, he cannot or she cannot make his or her living. We have far better facilities and more opportunities today. And if you have the possibility and opportunity, don't send your kids away from you. Keep them as much as possible in the local vicinity, so they still remain around you. Still, they are exposed to the outside world, but gradually, not abruptly. Which means, imagine they have been with you until 12th standard. They've lived with you, they've dined with you, they went out on vacation with you. Even schooling was very restricted, homeschooling and whatnot. Suddenly, after 12th, you send them for engineering college and they have to move in a hostel. I mean, I can't fathom how would the child survive that. Even for us, when I remember I had to go to college and join a hostel, even for us with our upbringing was so difficult to adjust with the hostel life. With all kind of dynamics. Never seen people drinking and smoking. And you see the boys smoking and the drugs going on, what not was going on. And imagine, we came from certain culture. Devotee culture is far much more restricted and purer for that. Now they're exposed, and suddenly, so I would say that's a violent act. It's lack of maturity, I would say, at the end of the parents' side in terms of their planning and envisioning. First, you gave them something which you didn't wanted them, and now suddenly you expose them to that world which you never prepared them for. How would child handle? And if the child undergoes trauma, I wouldn't be surprised because we kind of expose them. So such things, husband wife should sit together and decide, because the father could be more liberal, the mother could be more restricted. So in that case, the father would not say much as long as things are within home. But now the father won't want my child to become professionally successful, should go to good college. And now you agree to that. The greatest trauma would undergo is the child. I know, and in that traumatic situation, the child can take any decision. He might make a decision just to quit everything and just to become normal like everyone else, having boyfriend, girlfriend, going out and whatnot, or else might become suicidal. I can't speak to anyone. I can't live here. No friends, nobody to talk to, discuss to. And then obvious consequence of that will be he will not be or she will not be able to study well. The grades will go down. And these are just common recurrences. So I would say that the parenting has to be seen for that reason. Sometimes our parents are also too fanatic, particularly one spouse is too fanatic, other spouse is liberal. They're trying to balance it out, and both are singing their songs without understanding what's going on with the child. And the child has to suffer through. This is what generally happens. Okay, so these are just some thoughts. So these things is a very important responsibility. Again, more than sentiments, there has to be some practicality also along with it. If you really wanted your child to be like this, then why you're exposing your child to the outside world? Why sending the child to a hostel? I mean, are there not engineering colleges nearby? No, but my child should be in IIT on the top college. So be it. Do you think in the top colleges students are good? The worst kind of crimes and activities happen in IITs. They have lesbian clubs, they gay clubs. This I'm talking from my time. I'm talking 2000, 2001 when I was in engineering. This is what, 25 years ago. IIT Delhi had a gay club that time. I didn't even knew what gay meant at that point of time, but they had a gay club. I understood by that time I was in third year of engineering. I could only imagine what would be today. And IITs those times were the only, institutes in all over India who had the fastest internet available. We didn't have internet available in our hostel. We had a lab, and you go and download. I remember it will come as 1 KB. You can see 1 KB dropping from the sky, then 2 KB, and 3 KB. Just for the email attachment, you can finish one mala sitting in front of the computer. And I remember the time when I was in South, so we used to go to IIT Chennai almost every semester, and they had a high-speed internet right in their room. What all you can do with high-speed internet, you can imagine. That time there was hardly any restrictions also. So, anyways, fine. Anything else on this? Not on this, what I said. On the class we discussed.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Or the
Prabhu.
story of Purañjana.
Prabhu,
Yes.
you showed us the mirror. Very nice. In fact, taking your suggestion only, we moved to Pune actually. So I'm asking in a generalized way. What is it good to expose and let the children take the decision, or is it good to overprotect also, Prabhu? That was a general question I asked, not very specific. Like you, because it's a stemmed up from
So,
your question
I mean,
only
again,
that you asked in the class.
yeah, um, I can't make it a generic answer. I mean, it could be taken out of context. To expose or not expose, it becomes a very individual thing. For example, if I look at my sister's son, uh, he will not be able to adjust in the outside world. You know, he has a particular psychophysical nature. He just can't be with the people outside doing the worldly things. You know, so he started. I'm saying this because my sister, and her son. So we had to force him to live by himself. So my sister moved to Chennai, and he had to live by himself in Delhi. He couldn't survive. 6 months, somehow he struggled. And 6 months also, my sister has to go back there 2 times, being with him for almost 1.5 months. Effectively, he hardly stayed by himself. And long story short, finally, he struggled and whatnot. He found a job in Chennai. He moved to Chennai by Lord's grace. He got a job also right next to his house. So he's at his home. Every day goes to office, comes back, but he's with the family because he cannot be outside. He does not have the psychophysical nature. And it's not that he was not exposed. My brother-in-law, he travels all over the place because of his profession. He takes them to all the best hotels in the world. But still, that's not his liking. So what to put generic? I can't. It depends on individual situation, psychophysical nature and needs and desires of the parents as well as of the kids. Because sometimes the parents are sober and kids are wild. They're pulling the tail. चलो हमें मूवी दिखाने लेके जाओ. And parents are like, नहीं तुलसी आरती गाएंगे. God Aarti गाएंगे. And the kids are like, what is going on? Whenever there's a vacation time, parents say, let's go to Tirupati. And the child is saying, why not Goa? Why every time Tirupati? It happens practically. And in certain situation, parents say we want to go to Goa. And child says, no, 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 we will only go to Tirupati. I've seen that cases also. Again, my nephew I'm talking about, he doesn't go anywhere. If he'll only step out is, he'll go to temple only. So I recently went to South, right? So he was my tour guide. He knows everything about every temple there. What he watches on YouTube is about temples only. And that's what he does. That's his psychophysical nature, it's a very advanced consciousness in one way. That's coming from his past life. Not that any one of us trained him like this. And recently, the videos that I made is all what I saw is what he told me. I didn't know any of it. Literally, it took us everywhere. He knew every temple in Kumbhakonam. And so, if I have to go to Chennai, so where are we going? He makes an itinerary. So nobody can make an itinerary. He's going to make an itinerary. Why? Because if anyone else makes an itinerary, then they would add beach. They'll add few places, which he will not tolerate. So he's going to make an itinerary. Itinerary would be from this temple to that temple and temples and only temples. I remember my brother-in-law saying, यार मुझे क्यों पता नहीं सारे टेम्पल एक जैसे दिखते हैं हर बार मैं यहीं आ जाता हूँ all South Indian temples they have more or less same structure he likes going to temple no doubt about it but sometimes somebody may feel ना यार कहीं और भी तो चलो but जाना है तो temple. So this is psychophysical nature. So parents want to go somewhere, but the child would pull only. So this all depends on the individual family, and those individuals can discuss with their local mentors and take guidance how to move forward. All right. So we'll pause here. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Prabhu. Hare
Jai
Krishna.
Srila
Thank you.
Prabhupada ki Hare Krishna.
Can I ask one question, Prabhu? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, let us say, na? Who's
Radhika
speaking?
Rati. Radhika Dasi here, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, your student.
Okay. Okay.
Back
Yes.
in
Yes, Madan.
very blessed to have your darshan again after a few weeks. Prabhu, I had this doubt about this relationship where I got stuck, Prabhu. If we don't make new contacts, new relationships, then how do we talk or preach Krishna to them? If I'm just going to be away from them. So I don't know whether I misunderstood your explanation. So can you throw some light on this, Prabhu? Hare Krishna.
So, new desires, new likes, dislikes, new relationships. That was a relationship, that was in context of becoming attached. And then it becomes difficult to give. When it is about Krishna consciousness, it's not that somebody gets married because he wants to make the other lady or husband Krishna conscious. That's not the objective at all. It's just their need. So when it come to Krishna consciousness, it's not that you have to make relationships. You can, you can have students, you can preach. Let's say you're doing a book distribution on the street. What relationship do we need to have to do a book distribution? Of course, if they start listening to you, then teacher-student relationship may happen. That's a concomitant factor of it. But what we're talking about relationship is where we become attached. And it is for our gratification, not in the context of service. That was the point.
Very
That
clear,
does
Prabhu.
that clarify?
Very clear, very clear. I think I misunderstood. Sorry about it, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
No,
Prabhu.
thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Yes. Hare Krishna. Thank you.